Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're making the veins on my forehead pop out. Hey, it's Madison Chase, and it's yes or no. It's your entertainment source, our news option, and we're gonna lighten the mood, kind of. Probably not for Iggy Azalea. This is not a light moment, but it's not as serious as some of the other topics we've covered. So today we're talking about Iggy Azalea and Nick Young, who is a Lakers player, or we're talking about their very public split. But before we get into it, I want you guys to say hello to STEFZ.
What's up? I'm STEFZ. Happy to be here with you today, Madison. Happy to be here.
I know. Okay, so, whoo. Okay, so it's been a minute since I've had a relationship. For real, when I'm dating and things are going well, but not to this extent. So I can't even imagine what Iggy Azalea is going through. But there are some cautionary things that I think people can take notes from this very public relationship and breakup. Okay, so I'm going to read the story. This is actually from the Daily Beast. I don't know how credible this is, but some of this stuff is actually common knowledge based on what their Twitter feeds are saying. So the public disillusion of Iggy Azalea's engagement to Nick Young exploded in a sad and salacious fashion Thursday when the fancy rapper took to social media to explain why she kicked her Los Angeles Laker fiance to the curb last week. She says, and this is via her Twitter feed, I broke up with Nick because I found out he had brought other women into our home. Oh, child, I feel for you. While I was away and caught them on the security footage. Whew, bless her heart. She tweeted early Thursday morning to her 6.62 million followers. He got a whole lot of people that don't like him right now. She said this is like a second shot to the chest, she later added. And I feel like I don't even know who the HELL hockey sticks it is. I've been loving all this time. People in the world really are effed up. She spelled it out. The soul bearing triggered yet another landslide of sympathy and, of course, an inevitable smattering of shade from folks who haven't forgotten her spotty record of casual racism and cultural stealing, which I think is interesting because that's a whole other thing. We're not even going to touch that. And she said, it's hard enough to live, love, and lose in the age of social media. Imagine getting engaged, being cheated on, and breaking off your high-profile engagement while the world watched and snickered along, racing to see who can type out their best laden tweets, skating through tweets. I don't know what that means. Azalea's tweet came one news cycle after Life and Style breathlessly reported that Young, 31, had cheated on her with his ex, Kiana Green, with whom he has a 4-year-old son. According to the gossip rag, Green is now 4 months pregnant with her second child with Young, a revelation Azalea learned at the same time as everyone else. I've never ever been told by Nick that his baby's mother is pregnant. So if this is true, she found out via E! News. She tweeted. It's all come as fittingly viral into the celebrity couple of Azalea, 26, and Young, 31, a 3-year relationship that saw social media, entertainment news, and gossip rags cover their every blissful moment and move and break out the popcorn when Lakers star D'Angelo Russell leaked video of teammate Young confessing to cheating on his bride-to-be in March. Whew! The video not only reportedly caused a rift in the struggling Lakers locker room that became the talk of sports, but also brought the heat and scrutiny of the mainstream pop media pressing down on the soon-to-be married couple who scrambled to respond to the private embarrassment in the most public ways imaginable. We're going to end the story right there.
Woo-wee! The story is ended right there. Jeez.
Man, that's enough right there. So, whew, I'm like sweating for her because I can't even imagine. Number one, dating someone and opening yourself up to loving is a feat in itself, especially in Los Angeles where people pretend and say to be things that they're really not. And you could do that in person, and we find that quite often that people do that in Los Angeles. And I think it's because it's the land of Los Angeles, as people like to call it, or fake it till you make it. That's what a lot of people say. But I'm not a fan of either one of those movements because I'm all about, if you can't love me right now where I am and who I am, then you should just keep it pushing and not love me at all. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Iggy and Nick. So, first question.
Let me have it.
Should your 20s be the time you explore what you want in a relationship instead of marriage?
Ooh, now this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm living in Wisconsin, and I really think this has a lot to do with location.
Yeah, I agree with you.
People here are married and have kids at 20, and it makes my head spin. Because when I was 20, I grew up in New York. I moved to California, like living in cities like that. 20s was exactly for that. So my answer is yes, it should be for that. Now, do people in smaller towns have less pickings and find someone and want to build a life? Yes. Do I think that they do that because they're content and happy and loved? No. I think it's just what they think. And, before we go to the second question, two things about this. Number one, if you're engaged to somebody that you think you need to look at surveillance footage to see whether or not you've got problems.
Girl! Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I feel as if you're in love with your high school sweetheart, still sleeping with her, she's the mama of your child, you only hold on to this relationship with Iggy Azalea, and you're not. You're trying to ride her coattails. So Iggy got screwed in that way as well. I get he's a Laker. I get this, but Iggy Azalea is much more a household name. My two big points. And you know what, Iggy, it's going to be okay. I think that she's done nothing but show class through this entire thing. She's gotten emotional, but she's shown class. And he has done nothing but act like a fool.
I couldn't agree with you more. But here's where I probably differ in my opinion. I think, first of all, I'm very traditional in the sense that I think we do so many things that are so backwards, i.e. having kids and then your kids are actually in your wedding. Makes no sense to me. And again, when you talk about being a byproduct of your environment, I'm from Texas. It's a Bible Belt. It's very traditional. I grew up in church, and so it's traditional in that way. And even though I live in LA where it's very fast paced and people are very narcissistic and very self-absorbed, part of me still wants to hold on to that tradition that, you get married, then you have kids. So I think when you open yourself up to the non-traditional, let's have babies first and or be willing to date someone who has kids, and you have to kind of be okay with he's got to see his kid, i.e. now you got to see the baby's mama. So you can't separate the two. So I think when you open yourself up to dating someone who already has kids from a previous relationship, that's what you open yourself up to. Like for me, my preference, like some men have a preference, they don't want to date women that have kids. I feel the same way. I don't want to date a man that has kids. And people are like, oh, Madison, you're 30 plus. I'm like, I don't give a flip flop because I don't want, like, I think this is what you end up getting. Like, and people say that people tend to go back to their exes, because it's comfortable. And again, one thing that we haven't talked about, they were high school sweethearts. High school.
I know. No, yeah, this plot is a little bit thicker, but at the same time, I used to feel like that too until I dated someone with kids, because sometimes you can't, it's like you can't pick who you fall in love with. You know what I'm saying? Like if you fall for someone,
Oh,
Huh?
I hear you. Go ahead.
You know, I feel like for me, sometimes, you know, I feel like there's two different kinds of people. The people that like, I don't think one's strong and one's weak, but they're just classify them. But there's some people that have set their boundaries and are not willing to budge. And there are some people that their heart kind of can do a pole vault over their boundary wall and they just can't do anything about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't know if this was the case with them because I don't know them personally, but I could only speak for me. And typically, when you give an opinion about a situation, your backstory and who you are and what your choices are when it comes to relationships. So for me, I know that that's not a choice I would have made, even if he did play for the Lakers. There's tons of, but I think that's kind of, I hate to say it, but
he's making the choice because he played for the Lakers. I mean, you got Iggy Azalea, who's she's wealthy, she's successful, she's good looking. Like, I have to believe that the only reason why she stayed after she found out he cheated the first time, after she stayed after all this stuff, is because she really genuinely loved him. And sometimes love makes you things, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
I agree with that. I totally agree. But I also believe that you have choices in the people that you decide to love. I bet you this. I bet you the next time she won't date somebody else because she's 26. Like, you didn't have to make that choice. And I'm sure there were tons of other guys who were interested in you.
Right. I'm saying she made a choice just because, like, her heart, and she was kind of blindsided by the reality of the situation.
I know it. Here's the thing. I think you make choices when you feel like your choices are limited. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he was the only guy that was pursuing her. I don't really know. And we can't go back in time. But I just know for me, when I think about people that I've dated in the past, like, I remember this guy. Now he's married to his second wife, and he's got 5 kids by 5 different women. Way too many. And when I first met him, he had 2 or 3 kids in 3 different states. So to me, what that said to me was, he is not interested in getting married. He believes that, oh, it's okay to sleep with multiple women in multiple different states and have, unprotected sex and have multiple babies and not be a father. Like, for me, that's very important, that a man not only wants to be a husband first, but then be a great father. Especially in our community, we see a lot of times where men sometimes just have babies and they walk away like, you know what, it's what I do. I'm just supposed to have kids. I'm supposed to procreate. So that's just not a choice that I would make. But I also think because she's young, I guarantee you she won't make that choice again. I bet you. Like, she has many more options. And hopefully her heart is not so broken. I'm sure it is very broken, because I couldn't imagine, like you said, she's watching the security camera. But here's another thing, Steph, too. When you're dating someone that has money and tons of money, guess what? When they have money, they have options. And when they have options, they could, pay for women. Like, there have been countless stories. If you know anything about, enough athletes, they tend to have.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
They tend to have, because they have lots of options, and women tend to, pursue them and go after them, that they tend to have multiple kids. It just is what it is. And so, not that it's more acceptable for them to cheat, but I think women, because they are so okay with the lifestyle, that they're willing to tolerate certain things that you wouldn't tolerate from the man that worked at the post office. And I'm just saying,
no, I get you. And I think that's what we're overlooking is the fact, like, we can't blame, or I can't blame Iggy Azalea for staying if she felt like she was in love. I can't blame her for being with someone that has previous children. I can't blame her for any of that stuff. But I can blame Nick for not being his word. I can blame him for saying he's not going to cheat again and cheating. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like so many times we do this. We talk about the woman involved rather than, if he ain't happy in a relationship, why you engage? Have the decency to get out. Like, if you're not happy with the one you're with, go in and cheat. I don't care if you're a Laker. I don't care who you are. If you're not happy with the one you with, why is it okay? And why do we make excuses for behavior that it's okay for him to act the way that he's acting? Well, high school sweetheart or not, it's not okay.
Yeah.
He's the one that should man up, and he's the one that should leave.
Yeah, no, and I agree too. Like even though she was his high school sweetheart, when we're talking about, you knew that he was in another relationship.
Right.
And whether or not she had ulterior motives, you know what I'm saying? Because she knew that he was engaged to someone else, which means he's moving on, but you're obviously not. And she could have been pining after him the whole time. And so, you know, I just think it's a slippery slope when you're, you know, when you've known someone for that long and your high school sweethearts. I'm by no means, because one thing I don't condone is dishonesty. I don't think it's fair either way, but I'm sure in his mind and probably in Kiana, like I think they're trying to say, and this is alleged from what I remember reading, that they were drunk and, you know, it happened, and like that's kind of what they're alluding to. But she could have had ulterior motives this whole time. Like maybe she secretly wanted it. So I feel like both of them are to blame, because if he was engaged to Iggy, he probably, you know, like I just think that's it too. Like you have to be really honest about what your feelings are, and most people aren't. Like maybe his Kiana, the baby's mother, maybe she's always felt like this, and this is what you get when you're not really transparent with exactly what you're feeling and thinking. And they're also in their 20s, right, early 30s. So I think that makes a difference too. You're not dealing with mature people who, you know, have had tons of experience in, number one, communicating their truth and being honest about what they're feeling. That's what it is. Okay. So number two, is it common for people to stay connected to their high school sweethearts?
I think for me, no. I don't have this tie. I feel like, you know, I feel like more so than their high school sweethearts, I feel like it's more of a first love. Like there's always usually that place where maybe a first love resides. You think different, or you make different excuses for it because it was a new feeling. But I don't think that by any means, you know what I mean? I feel like you know, that's kind of what happens. It's your first love. It's a new feeling. So this person will always have a special kind of place in your world. But I don't know that, you know, once you can, you know, find real love rather than your first love, I think it might change.
Interesting perspective. Here's what I think, because I've worked with a ton of celebrity clients. And one thing that's common with all of them, and you know, you've heard people say, when you get money, people change. And then I've heard from the perspective of the celebrity that the people around them change. But I also think you become more of who you are at the foundation level of who you are, the internal core, innate sense of who you are. It just increases when you become a celebrity, because now you have more money and you have more options. And I also think that, you know, some of the people that I've talked to that are celebrities, that are famous, not that they get jaded, but I also think you start to distrust so many people around you that it's a comforting thing that you go back to the person that knew you when you had nothing, that knew you when you were not worth. Say it again, Steph.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I'm not blaming him, but I'm also saying, like, I've never played for the Lakers, and I've never been around, you know, I have been around Phil Jackson, and I think he's amazing. And I have been around some of the Lakers when I was training and working with one of my celebrity clients. But I think the interesting thing is, you know, just, I think when you get to a certain level, and the Lakers is definitely like the pinnacle of, you know, NBA teams when you're talking about championships, and we're not talking about, you know, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State. I know they're like the new whatever, but anyway, hold the story, hold the topic. I think you can start to yearn for the thing that reminds you of when people just liked you for you. And I think that could have possibly been what he experienced. Like, wow, like, and maybe Iggy Azalea opened up a whole new world for him that he hadn't seen because he's involved in the sports and the Lakers side, which is completely different from the entertainment and the music side. So who knows? I think that that's probably why he stayed connected to her. It doesn't make it right, but it does make him human, and it does make him. And I think he made a mistake. And I'm not. I don't have a dog in this fight. Like, people get so like, I can't believe he did that. Like, they feel like they're in the relationship, and I'm like, I get it, but you also have to consider the fact that she's 26. She's young. She's gonna make, when you're in your 20s, you make dumb mistakes. And could you
have to consider the fact that there's always, you know, when it comes to celebrity, there's always four sides to the story.
Yes.
Her side, there's his side, there's the side that's reported, and then there's what's really happened. And we know what's really happening behind closed doors.
And then you could add two more sides, because your perception and your reality are completely two different things. The way he perceived Iggy in the relationship and vice versa. So you could add four more sides. The perception and the reality for both of them is completely different, you know? So I think at the end of the day, when you get into a relationship, nobody is trying to hurt you. Like, I don't think he didn't love her. I think he just, whatever, like, if you're not talking to someone professionally about relationships, and or you go into a relationship, i.e. like Russell Wilson and Sierra, like, he's being upfront with what his intentions are. And when you don't go into a relationship like that, then it's hard to kind of understand how things like this progress and how they happen, because, you know, I think his intentions probably were, but I think they dated 3 years. So she was 23.
Yeah.
And any excuse, but also, you know, I think sometimes when you're in relationships and you're 20, like, you need a good girlfriend, not her mom, because her mom is Australian too. She's from Australia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not going to understand Americans and American relationships and how people get down. Like, she needed the, you know, the older Black woman, like, hey, let me school you on what it's like to date, you know, an African American man in this country, especially an African American man that has some kind of platform. Even if he was not like a Kobe Bryant Laker, he still gets the benefits of being a Laker. So I think it's different when you're dating a celebrity. It's totally different. You have to move and operate completely different. Say it again, Steph.
No, I just disagreeing with you. I'm with you. I think you're right.
Okay, so question number 3. Does it bother you that Nick had a second child with his high school sweetheart and first mother of his child? He's about to have a second child. He hasn't had it yet. She's 4 months pregnant.
So it's confirmed that that baby is his.
Oh, yeah. She's about to do, I've heard, this is hearsay. This is not like factual. Allegedly, she has a tell-all book coming soon. Now, that part is real. Come on, Kiana. Go ahead.
No, for me, it's not. Like, I'm so not that emotionally tied to this story, because, I mean, she figured out he was cheating a while ago, you know? And it's like, if you choose to stay with that, then I feel like that's kind of what's in the cards. Like, again, I'm not trying to blame her. I'm not trying to blame him. You know, I mean, for me, it's more so him than her. She's not going and cheating on him. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but I feel like, you know, the fact that he's got, you know, his high school sweetheart, the mother of his first child, pregnant again. Now, if he's out sleeping with other people too, then he's got serious problems.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I agree with you. Like, I feel like, again, I'm not that emotionally tied to it, but I think it's so interesting when people are. Like, you would think Iggy Azalea was their, you know, their sister or their cousin or their, you know. Like
Right.
not that I could care less, but I feel for her because I know how, you know, it is to love someone and you find out that, you know, that they're not only cheating, but cheating with someone that you're familiar with is like a double-edged sword. Like, but again, I agree with you too, Steph. Like, I would much rather, you know, it be someone that he's familiar with versus the random chick on Santa Monica Boulevard. That's just,
Right.
yeah.
True. True.
So
Very true.
it lessens the blow just a little bit, but I also think too, like you have to understand what a lot of men do, and it has become very acceptable for people to blame the woman versus blaming the men. But I also think it's common knowledge that when men have more money, they have more options, and some of those options they pursue, and then some of those options women are, you know, they call them groupies for a reason because they're actively pursuing these men like it's a job. So it is what it is. And, you know, my heart goes out to Iggy Azalea because heartbreak is heartbreak. And however you experience it, it's never an easy feat. I'm just hopeful that, you know, she'll get over it. I know she's about to do the X Factor in Australia. And I hope she meets someone that's, you know, on her level, that understands her culture, because I think that's part of it too, that it was a cultural thing. Like, had she known, like, oh, that's what they do, like most athletes have multiple babies, like that's, at least it was his same baby's mama from the first one. That's kind of my resolve, but it is what it is. So best of luck to you, Iggy Azalea. And I just hope people don't hate Nick so bad, because he's gotten so many like hate and mean messages. And it's one thing to be, you know, to have conversations about your relationship personally, but to have that conversation with millions of people on your social media page, I just say give him a break. Like, it's not you, you're not in the relationship. Take your dog out the fight, leave it alone, let them deal with it accordingly. But we're not, because we're talking about it, but I'm not as passionate about it because I just feel like it's relationships. You're in your 20s, and that's why I think your 20s should be the time that you actually, you know, see what it is that you really like. Give yourself some options, date, and I'm definitely a promoter of, you know, abstaining from sex, because I think it makes the blow that much easier, you know, to have to deal with the emotional pain, and the emotional scar is not so drastic. Like, you could move on. Like, when I broke up with my ex because we didn't sleep together, I was like, I'm gonna give myself Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm not gonna talk about it no more. And I'm gonna be done. Like, I'm like, the emotion and the energy that I spent 3 days and I was good.
Girl, that is a whole nother topic.
I know.
A whole nother segment. I'm not even gonna touch on that. It's a whole nother segment.
Okay. But that's just me. So I'm Madison Chase, and you can find me on my social media. One Mad Chase on YouTube. I'm One Madison Chase on Instagram. On Twitter, I'm Madison Chase Fit. On Pinterest, you can find me Madison Chase Fit as well, and Snapchat Madison Chase Fit too. So, Steph, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at I am STEFZ. That's with an F. And YouTube STEFZ TV. And you can comment right here, and you can find me, and I'll write you back.
Yeah, please leave your comments, because this is an interesting story when it comes to just relationships. And that's kind of why I love to talk about relationships and love. And I do feel like love is an action. And again, like you said, Seth, I think there are always warning signs when someone's cheating and she decided to take them back for whatever reason. And I think that's an admirable thing, to forgive someone. But yeah, thanks for watching, Seth. Did you tell people where they could find you? I
did tell them.
Okay. All of them? Did you give all of them?
I did, but I'll tell them again if you want. IAMSTEFZ on YouTube, STEFZ TV. That's all I got, girl. I don't got the Pinterest. I don't got the Snapchat.
I mean, I have Snapchat, but I'm just now. Oh, I have Periscope too. So yeah, we'll have to get on Periscope. This will be fun on Periscope too. Anyway, I'm back to the case. Thank you guys for watching and leaving your comments, and We'll see you next time. Steph, enjoy your 4th of July. Everybody enjoy your 4th of July. And yeah.
Yes. Peace.